That should be us now. So thanks very much for joining us, everybody. So today I'm joined for Procurement Stories by Karen Gibb from Mind Marvels.
Hello.
So hi Karen, thanks very much for joining us today. I'm really grateful for that.
Anytime.
So I was going to start by, could you tell us a bit about your business, please?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Karen from Mind Marvels, and I'm a former teacher, so I used to work with children in social work and with social, emotional and behavioural needs as the fancy Scottish title. And I really love working with young people, but I was really interested in the emotional well-being side. So that's kind of where I came up with Mind Marvels. I wanted to work with young people predominantly on their emotional well-being and their mental health. So we work in nurseries and schools, or we did until COVID. And we're now we're online, and we also work with families one-to-one as well. So lots going on here, and we kind of base our sessions, I think I've got a wee leaflet here. We base our sessions on the NHS 5 steps to mental wellbeing. So each session, whether it's one-to-one or in a group setting, we will run through each of these steps: learn, move, connect, mindful, and be kind. And what we find with this, it can be for any child, but in particular for children with stress or maybe a bit of anxiety, especially with COVID that's going on just now. There'll be a lot of uncertainty around children going back to school and how they're kind of feeling about it as well. So yeah, Mind Marvels, we like to help young people of kind of all ages with their mental health.
So how long has Mind Marvels been trading for? When did you set it up?
Sure, so I set up in August last year, so we're just under a year old now. I've always kind of incorporated a lot of this stuff into my teaching before then, so although we're just under a year old, I would say we're a couple of years old in the making.
It's really interesting how much like emotional well-being's becoming into the fore, and how much schools are actually concentrating on that now.
Oh, definitely. I think and it's not a stigma so much anymore, is it? I think if people said, oh, I've got some mental health issues, I don't think there'd be such a people wouldn't be as embarrassed. Not that they should feel embarrassed, but I think people do sometimes feel embarrassed about their mental health, and they also kind of maybe take blame, or they think, oh, for goodness sake, this is my fault. And it's, sometimes it's just kind of our circumstances or how we react to situations. So with Mind Marvels, we try to provide calming strategies and practical tools to young people, just to help them at an early age with what's going on inside their bodies and their brains, but also gives them life skills to continue using those skills as they get older. And I just think if this had been around when I was young, I was quite an anxious child, very hyperactive, anxious child, all rolled into one. And I feel if this had been around when I was younger, or even just the discussion and the dialogue around mental health, talking about our different emotions and, how we might be feeling and what we could do when we feel a certain way, then I think that would have a massive impact on how, we're shaped as adults and, into adulthood, definitely.
I think when I was growing up at school, it wasn't really, you didn't really talk about your feelings. You weren't encouraged.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Or you were kind of told to just play quietly,
Yes.
Not make too much of a noise. And now, we're trying to turn that around really, and encourage children to be more open, but quite often children are shaped by the homes that they grow up in. So if you've maybe had a parent that didn't talk to you, you might be less likely to talk to your child, but also it might make you more determined to talk to your child because you didn't have that experience growing up. So I would say a lot of our mental health is shaped kind of around definitely our circumstances, but also the strategies that are put into place to help us, and particularly from a young age.
Yeah,
definitely. So love it though. It doesn't feel like a job.
Well, you can tell you're passionate about it.
Oh, thank you. I could talk for days. I won't, but I could talk for days.
I think that makes a real difference though when you're going on to sell it.
Yeah. Definitely. No, you're right. You're right. I think as well, your life experience can really help you as well. If you've never really had any of these experiences, it must be hard to relate sometimes to others. So I think if you can say, yeah, I used to have anxiety and I still get anxiety now. I mean, I was feeling anxious coming on here, Shona.
Yeah.
But it's just about how you deal with that situation and how you deal with your feelings that makes the big difference. And I always say to children and adults, it's not about not feeling these feelings, but it's about what you do when you feel those feelings. It's okay to feel those feelings. We can't just switch them off, you know, if we feel stressed out or angry, but it's, you know, it's how we're proactive around that.
Yeah. So how did you find out about selling to the public sector, so selling to councils?
I think that's a really good question. I was actually thinking about that before we came on. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember when I started going advertising to schools, realising that it wasn't actually that easy. They couldn't just call you up and say, yeah, I want you, and that's it. I realised there was a lot of red tape, you know, quite rightly, red tape sometimes. And there a couple of councils that I'd tried to apply for had told me actually need to be registered on PCS, and that was when I was like, what? It was a whole new experience. I'd never ever encountered or really heard about it. I thought tendering and procurement was for big contracts, and I think that's probably quite a common myth, maybe. Would you say so, Shona? Do people think?
Yeah, a lot of people who are like solo business owners who own their own business, sole traders or whatever, often think that public sector wouldn't buy from them.
Yeah, or I'm such a small company, you know, why does it matter? And it can be really intimidating, the whole process, especially if you don't know all the jargon and they love an acronym.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, even I've been on PCS webinars and they just love all these acronyms, and I'm the one in the corner typing, can you tell me what that means?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, you know, and I love knowledge. Knowledge is power. So I think the more times that you're able to sort of find out more, it's just to your advantage, definitely.
Yeah. So you have been selling to schools. How did you go about that?
Well, I sent loads of emails first. I knew quite a few teachers from being a teacher myself, but to be honest, it didn't really make it any easier for me. I still feel like I've had to start from the beginning. But what I did, I've done a couple of different marketing sort of ideas. So I sent around some emails. I've personalised emails, but I've also sent out over 300 personalised postcards. And when I mean personalised, I hand wrote them all, just explaining who I was, and you know that I wasn't just this big company. I was actually the face behind the company, and you know that I was really passionate about children's wellbeing. So that was kind of how I approached it. But I would definitely say that getting on to procurement is one of the big hurdles to overcome in any business, definitely.
But it opens up lots of opportunities for you.
Yes, and ideas that I hadn't ever thought about before. I've seen tenders for going into prisons and working with the children of the prisoners. I've seen ones working with youth clubs and in the community. So it just shows that even though I sort of had that mindset of nurseries and schools, actually there's so many more avenues out there. And I think that is actually quite exciting. Once you can navigate that website and start to understand it, it feels less daunting, and you feel like, yeah, I actually can understand some of the technical keywords they use.
Yeah. You're quite open though to discovering new opportunities and to looking, seeing what's behind it and then deciding if it's right for you or not.
Yeah, well, I'm quite a nosy person, so I always like to just see what's out there, and also I love trying new things as well. So I like to get out my comfort zone, definitely. So I felt like with PCS, I could see what was out there, but also it's good to see what other companies are out there as well. So perhaps if you don't get a tender, or if a tender's passed, you can then see who all the suppliers are. I think that's really helpful, because then you can also collaborate and communicate with these companies. It's sort of less about competition now and more about networking and supporting other businesses. So actually, when I've seen a few tenders that have passed and I've seen the companies, I'll actively go and look for them on LinkedIn or online, because I just like to, know who's out there. But also it's great for referrals. If there's something out there that I can't do, then I'm quite happy to pass that business on, or if, for some reason, for example, counselling is really, really big just now with the local authorities, the schools, and I'm not a qualified counsellor, so I'm quite happy to pass that business on. Also in the hope that other businesses would feel the same and pass business back. I think that's a really nice way to be kind of open with other businesses, but also share contacts as well.
Also, it means you could actually take on bigger contracts potentially.
Exactly.
By collaborating.
Yeah, there was a tender last week for play therapy. So they were looking for a play therapist. I'm not a play therapist, but I contacted a few play therapists, and together we kind of got our details together and submitted them. And that was great, because then you're finding out more about other people and what they do for their job. But it also means if a school message me and say, can you provide a play therapist? I already know people to, provide that service. And it's just win-win, really. It really is.
And you also can complement each other, because not everything works for every individual.
Exactly.
Being able to give the menu is amazing.
Yes, and I went at the start of this year onto a counselling course thinking that I might progress on to be a counsellor, but actually the more I dug into it, it was very interesting, but it wasn't really what I was wanting to do by the end, which is absolutely fine, but it meant that I knew the sort of what a counsellor does, because there's so much under the surface, it's unbelievable. But it also meant I could then find counsellors who could help complement Mind Marvels and what we do. So it was a really good opportunity. And I think PCS is definitely worth exploring, particularly if you're a new business, but also if you're an established business as well. I think it's there for everyone.
That is, yeah. And that's one of the other myths, is that people think as a new business you can't sell to public sector, you need to have
so many years experience, or some of the wording can be very technical, or it can be you can misinterpret it. But that's where someone like you would come in, Shona. Like your business has really, really helped my business with putting myself out there and asking you lots and lots of questions. But yeah, I definitely, BDS has been fantastic support for me in terms of just even navigating or attempting to navigate the whole process, because you've also got the other website as well, PCS, what is it, PCST?
PCST.
Yes, you've got the two that can join and complement each other sometimes.
Well, yeah, they don't join as they should, but yes.
No, and they love to give you a different login for each, and then when you try and join them. But anyway, you will get there. That's what I'm here to say. Really, it feels really overwhelming, and I've been really surprised when I've met other businesses, and they've kind of been like, "What are you talking about?" And these are businesses that work in schools as well. So I don't know if there's that much awareness of it out there.
Yeah, I think with schools, the issue is that schools used to have their own budget, which they had a lot more control over. Yeah. And I don't think they have quite as much control now, but there's still the historic bits of that, is that they just put out contracts, decide who they're selling, who's going to supply them, and it goes to that. Yeah, definitely.
And also with schools, they have 3 or 4 pots of different money, so you might not go on PCS because they're paying you at a different budget, and that's all above board. But if you're on PCS, it just means that you get more opportunities. And I think that is win-win. And you can easily see with tenders on PCS how your business can scale quite quickly if you were to win a tender. Definitely.
Yeah, which is definitely the way you're looking.
Yes, onwards and upwards, definitely. People might think, oh, it's a one-man band, but actually, you've got so many resources and so many people that you can go to or add on to your business, that complement you really well. So I would just recommend it to anyone, and don't be afraid.
So what's selling to public sector done for your business?
It's really catapulted us onto a different platform, I would say. It's made us a lot more professional. There's nothing worse than sending out a bunch of emails and then, head teachers or heads of, family learning centres get back to you and they say, oh, great, are you on the system? And you're like, no. So professionally, it's been amazing because it's just sort of shown us how to boost ourselves up, but also I think it just gives you so many more avenues to explore and things that you wouldn't necessarily have looked at before. It just gives you those opportunities. So for PCS, I've completed around 3 tenders now and still waiting on 2, but I've been successful in 1, and that's given me the confidence to then move onwards and keep going. And I think you could easily scale your business with PCS, and I think it's perhaps easier. There's a lot of hard work, but at the end it would be easier than when you know that schools have that actual interest in wanting to pay for your services. So rather than like a maybe, you'll kind of get schools coming through and say, we need this, and then that's when you go, yes, perfect, I've got that here. So it's really has made the process a lot easier to understand, definitely.
Can I just say though, for your first tender, you got 100% for the quality score for it.
I know that some really clever lady helped me.
Yeah, but you were selling what they wanted.
Definitely, yeah. And it's almost unbelievable, isn't it? Because you think, how can anyone get 100%? But if you're answering the questions exactly how, and you're aiming to get the full marks as such, then it's not unachievable, definitely not. So yeah, really glad, and it was great to have you on board, Shona, especially for the first one, because it is a bit of a what is happening here when you log on, but once you start the biggest advice I can give anyone is just go on and navigate and click through, and I learn things every time I'm on there, but that's just about how we learn, isn't it? And I didn't even realise until recently that you could just hover over any of the buttons and it'll just tell you what it is.
Information, right?
Yeah, so like your my ITT, if you just hover over it, it just tells you what that actually means, and that's a huge help. It's those small things that make a massive difference.
Yeah.
And
Pat's just saying, whoa, 100% in the comments.
Yeah, totally. And also the supplier development program, the self-help sort of side to it, it has been brilliant actually. It's been really, really helpful. And I've phoned them many a time and they've been really responsive, even during COVID. I have to kind of give my hat off to them. They've been excellent as customer service and just to answer any queries that I've had, regardless how small or big.
Yeah. So finally, what tips would you give anybody?
Tips, I would say don't struggle alone, definitely. I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was actually, I'm sure it was Nick, is it Nick Smith from SquareTex?
Yes.
He actually said to me, I had emailed all the contractors that had been awarded, all the suppliers that had been awarded, and I just said, hey, this is my business, I'm wondering how you go about this, because I love learning and I love learning like how to do things especially. And Nick had said, yeah, this is Shona, she helped me with my tender. So straight away I was just like, right, Shona, help me. So I think at least for your first one, you should try and get some professional help. And that's just because it's not even that you can't do it yourself. You could do it yourself, but Shona gave me sort of ideas and ways to expand that I hadn't thought of. So it's kind of like having somebody else there that's seeing your business from an outsider's point of view. And that was really helpful for me because, when you're in the business yourself, you'll know this, Shona, you can't always be objective or subjective to your own business. So, in the ways that I would say, right, okay, I'll maybe just do the workshops and I'll not do the after school clubs or whatever, Shona would be like, well, why not? Your skills can be stretched. You can do And it really did make me think more about my business. So I would definitely recommend that you speak to a professional or let somebody help you write the tender, because it's not about just giving all the work to Shona, as much as I would have loved to have done that. I had to come up with, the business idea and the facts and figures and, some of the financial pricing myself. Obviously, Shona was happy to advise, but it does make you think more about your pricing as well. If you're maybe travelling 50 miles one way for a school, is your costings reflecting, your time travelling, your petrol, the wear on your tyres, etc., etc. So it kind of just made me think more about the business, the pricing structure, and also, what the business could actually do. So yeah, would definitely recommend a professional. And also I would recommend, if you love learning like myself, I mean, I'm a teacher for a reason, I just love learning new things. I don't always embrace them at the time, but I do enjoy I like knowing that I am on equal footing with other people as well. So if other businesses have this opportunity, and it kind of seems silly for me not to try for this opportunity as well. And the other thing is, it's all free to go in and apply for PCS tenders. So it's kind of win-win, really. If you don't get one, you can try next time, So I would definitely recommend someone like yourself going on and learning as much as you can. And also, don't be afraid to ask other businesses. I've never really had a negative response from me asking around and just saying, look, have you ever applied? What do you do with this situation? I think people, especially in business, are really, really supportive. And, I think if a business wasn't supportive, it's not necessarily one that I would want to sort of, be in talks with anyway. So yeah, the people I've found have been great. And also, if anyone has any small issues, I'm not an expert by any means, but feel free to get in touch. And if it's anything to do with well-being, or you're not sure about something with your tender, I'm happy to sort of share my experiences, at least if that can help someone else. That makes a difference.
That's very kind of you offering that. Thank you very much.
Not saying I'm an expert, definitely not.
But sometimes just speaking to somebody who's going through the same thing is really
exactly. If I hadn't spoke to Nick, I probably wouldn't have found you, Shona. Do you know what I mean? It was just like a network of people to talk to that led me to you. And what was really nice was I've emailed a lot of people that were on that particular tender, and the people that had emailed back, they all recommended you. So that gave me confidence as well, because you don't always know who you're in business with. So it's great to get that personal recommendation. Makes such a difference.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
What I was going to say about the pricing thing was, what we were thinking about, as well as trying to work out like the mileage and all that, was also making sure that we encompassed that you'd be comfortable with the prices in 3 years' time.
So true.
As well, yeah.
Definitely. And I think sometimes you can feel a bit, it's not desperate to get a tender, but it's like that want, isn't it? And you want to you don't want to undersell yourself, but you think, I really, really want to get this. And sometimes it's not about the price, it's more about thinking, well, if I'm at home developing those resources, even though I might have worked 5 hours a day, there's also, I'm working behind the scenes as well. So I definitely think you kind of helping me with that was a really big catalyst for how the business is operating now, just because I believe that I am paid fairly, for the work. I think when you start as a business, you do undersell yourself a lot because you don't know necessarily what to do. But actually now, speaking to other businesses, again, it's all about that networking, isn't it? And just saying, look, do you mind letting me know what do you think about this price structure? And quite honestly, people will be honest and say, no, maybe this, or that sounds good. And that's what business is all about to me. It's all about making those connections and finding people, finding your little cheerleaders, as I like to call them.
Yeah, your own team.
Yes. So they're maybe not on my team, as Mind Marvels, but they're around me in that circle. And that means so much, especially when you are a small kind of new operating business, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So, are you going to pop your links in the group?
Yep, I'm quite happy to do that. So we're actually starting a little membership scheme at the end of this week. We're going to, for families, so we're going to be running kind of pre-recorded videos so that families can engage in their own time. I know how busy families are just now. So I'm really, really excited to launch that, and I will put all the details below, but we are Mind Marvels on almost all social media, so really lucky there.
Thanks very much for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Shona. Much
Okay,
appreciated.
thanks.